This is the Para Cave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Parramatta Leagues Club, home of the Eels, and also home of Jack's Pale Ale.
Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. Troy Warner here. It is the game preview of round number 20. It is the Canberra Raiders at home to the Parramatta Eels at GIO Stadium on Saturday, the 19th of July, 3 p.m. kickoff. And look, I thought I'd do a preview of this one. And look, as per usual, I like to go through my stats. So let's start off with some stats and then we'll go into the current day. Look, overall, the Canberra Raiders and the Parramatta Eels have played 68 matches. Canberra have won 36 and Parramatta have won 32. And at GIO Stadium, where this match will be played, there have been 26 games and it's not a good record for Parramatta. It is 20 wins to the Raiders and only 6 to the Parramatta Eels. Now, the last 8 out of 10 games played in Canberra, you guessed it, Canberra have won. So, very tough to win down in Canberra. And look, the last 2 victories for Parramatta were in 2022. It was a 28 points to 20 win, and then it was and 2021 as well. It was a 35 to 10 victory. Both of those games being played, or what that game in 2021 was 20,889, and the 2022 game was 16,244, probably looking towards a crowd about that 20,000, I'd say, down there in Canberra if the weather is fine on Saturday. Now, I'm going to jump on the weather app here and just see what it is going to be like on Saturday. So just talk amongst yourselves for a little bit. Okay, Canberra on Saturday is going to be 0 to 12. So probably about kickoff, it'll be about 9-10 degrees. So nice and chilly down there as you would expect in Canberra. But look, for Parramatta fans travelling down there, at least it is 3 p.m. kickoff. So you wouldn't want to be playing the 7:30 p.m. game down there in Canberra in winter. That is for sure, because that is an added advantage, dead set, for the Raiders down there, because no team likes to go play it in Canberra. All the player interviews that I've done, I always ask the question, which is the worst ground that they don't like playing at, and more often than not, Canberra does come up for that reason, because it is so goddamn cold down there. But look, it's going to be a bit of a festival of footy, I think, down in Canberra on Saturday. So if you are a Parramatta fan, or indeed a Canberra fan, get there early, because there is the NRLW game being played there, 12:45 p.m. kickoff, and then first grade NRL with Canberra taking on Parramatta, and then the reserve grade as well, the knock-on effect cup being played there as well. And that game is on at 5:15 p.m. So that's after the first grade game. So a triple header of football down there in Canberra. So lots of action. And look, that is just great for the fans. Both Canberra and Parramatta fans that get down there to the nation's capital, because get to see 3 games being played down there. So a plethora of rugby league. Now, if we look at, I can't remember whether I did this last time when Parramatta played Canberra in Darwin. I think it was about round 8 or something like that, 9, 7 or 8. Anyway, we'll forget about that one, or I'll probably mention that one a little bit later. But players that have played for both clubs include Blake Ferguson, Brad Drew, who I've had on the podcast before. Also, there has been Nathan Highmarsh's brother, Ian. He did a stint, obviously started at Parramatta and then went to Canberra and then I think finished off at Parramatta. Josh Hodgson, who is doing some junior coaching at Parramatta these days. Michael Hodgson. Also, there has been David Wesley as well. Rod Maybon. Justin Morgan, who's an assistant coach up at the North Queensland Cowboys. Andrew McFadden. Junior Paolo, of course, who is playing in this game. He's the captain in this game on Saturday. Had a couple of seasons at Canberra, mostly at Parramatta. Just played his 200th Eels game, first grade game, the last week against the Panthers. Reece Robinson, Clinton Schifofsky, bit of a crowd favourite. Bailey Simonson, who is also playing in this game today, started his career off at the Raiders and is now at Parramatta. Jason Smith, who is one of my favourite ever players, obviously Canterbury, Canberra and Parramatta. And we also have David Wesley, as I mentioned before, and that is about it. So a few players have played for both clubs. Always like to go through those ones there. So it is interesting to see who has played for both clubs, and a couple playing in this game today on Saturday that have played for both clubs. So now we will go to this current day game. Well, actually, before we do that, let's have a look at some of the games that have been played, and let's see if I can remember any of these classic games that have been played as we look down the list. I mean, obviously, sticking out is the 2022 semi-final at CommBank Stadium. One of the biggest crowds to be at that stadium, at 29,134. That was a victory, 40 points to 4 to Parramatta. And who can remember that Mitchell Moses try where he just ran for that corner? How good was that one? That was a great night indeed on the must-win game against Canberra to move on to the preliminary final. There was the 25-24 game at CommBank Stadium during the COVID times in front of 560 people. Now, I think this was the game that Corey Horsburgh got sin-binned and was quite emotional about this game. Stuck his finger up at the crowd, I think that was. That was a night for him to forget, but that was a Clint Gutherson field goal that got Parramatta across the line that day. 2014, round 22. This game was actually played at TIO Stadium, not GIO Stadium, up in Darwin in front of a crowd of 9,527. It was won by Parramatta 18 points to 10. It was Jared Hayne. He was captain along with Tim Manor, and he scored 2 tries on that night. He was on fire that night, I remember that. I think he got a great ball from David Gower. I think it was about 50 metres out, and he just got a great pass from him and just took off and scored a try. I remember it now pretty vividly. 36 points to 6 at Pertex Stadium. So there has been some really memorable clashes over the years. Look, if you go right back to 1987, it was at Parramatta Stadium. It was 30 points to 22. Now, this game is pretty famous because at halftime it was Canberra 22-0, and the Parramatta players on that day got booed, and they just came out in that second half and absolutely blitzed it. Bobby Lindner, 2 tries. Neil Hunt, Don Price, Ken Wolfe, John Muggleton, 5 from 6. Some of the names in that 1987 team: Mick Delroy, Eric Groth, Michael Erickson, Lewis Takarangi, Brad's dad, and Kiana's dad as well, played on the wing that day. Mike Eden and Peter Sterling were the halves. Sterlo was the captain. Bob Lindner, John Muggleton, Mark Laurie, Terry Leabeater, Michael Mosley, Peter Wynn. Pretty reasonable forward pack there. Graham Atkins, Neil Hunt, Don Price, and Peter Ford, and John Money was the coach. But yeah, that was a momentous occasion there for Parramatta fans. If you were there that day, let me know. I wasn't there that day, but 14,020 people were and booed them off at half time. Maybe that is a formula, because I do think that Newcastle were booed off the field this year at home, and I think they ended up coming back and winning the game by memory. So maybe that is a bit of a thing these days. But anyway, to this game on Saturday, July 19, 3 p.m. kickoff. It is the Raiders they are in first spot on the ladder. They had the bye last week. Parramatta went down to the Panthers 32 points to 10. So the Raiders are hot favourites in this game, and that no reasoning why they shouldn't be, to be honest. That game up in Darwin was on the 12th of April. It was round number 6. The Raiders absolutely smashed Parramatta 50 points to 12. It wasn't a good last game up in Darwin for Parramatta. Dylan Brown scored a try that night, Josh Adokar as well, but it was 24 points to 6 at halftime. So, look, no more about that one. We don't want to go on about that one. But to this game, now let's go through the sides for Canberra. One of the players to watch and to be wary of if you're one of the Parramatta backs and forwards is K.O. Weeks. Scored 3 tries in his last performance at GIO Stadium. 2 of them were length of the field jobs. Jed Stewart, Ricky Stewart's son, and Xavier Savage on the wings. Matthew Timoko and Sebastian Chris in the centres. Ethan Strange, Jamal Fogarty are the halves. Josh Papali'i and Joe Tarpany, the captain, are the prop forwards. Tom Starling is the hooker. Hudson Young, Zach Hosking, who has just signed a 3-year extension, so he will remain at the club until 2028. Corey Horsburgh is the lock. Owen Paddy, Simi Sasagi, Morgan Smithies, and Ata Mariotta is the interchange bench there. Chevy Stewart is the 18th man. For Parramatta, look, a few changes to their side that played the Panthers. Joash Papali has been named at 5'8". Last week he played at 5'8", but wasn't named in the side. But we'll start up the top. Isaiah Iongi, who's absolutely killing it this year at fullback. Zach Lomax and Josh Adokar on the wings. Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell in the centres. Joash Papali, Dean Hawkins, Jermaine Hopgood has moved to the prop position along with Junior Paulo, who's the captain. Riley Smith comes back from suspension, which is a big boost for Parramatta. Charlie Guymer and Jack Williams moves back to the second row. Dylan Walker is the new lock. Talon De Silva, Jordan Samrani, Matt Dury, and Sam Tuavati are the interchange bench. And Dylan Brown is the 18th man in on this occasion. They, of course, are coached by Jason Riles. Now, look, the 18th man for Parramatta, Dylan Brown, that is a very interesting one. A lot of people have messaged me about that one, and what have they asked me? Well, they've said, what is your take on Dylan Brown being the 18th man? Has the team given up on making finals, so they're just looking towards the future? Well, the team hasn't given up on making finals. They still believe that they can make finals. I guess they are sort of looking towards the future. I don't know if the experiment of Dylan Brown at hooker worked last week. He did set up the first try for Kit Kat, Kiti Oni Katoga, who's unfortunately out for the season now with that ankle injury. due to a hip drop tackle. So it did work there, but he only played, I think, 25 minutes and then 5 minutes towards the end. So it probably didn't work the best, I don't think. So an interesting one there as to why he is 18th man. I mean, could you have put him on the bench? Probably not, because you've got Talon De Silva there who'll interchange with Riley Smith at some stage in the game. You've got Dylan Walker at lock there, so you probably need some size on the bench as well. Some suggestions have said put him at lock, but and just have a roam around. Some have said also put him at centre as well, but look, you got Bailey there who's returned after injury. You got Sean Russell there who's been pretty consistent this season in that centre position anyway, so I don't think that was going to happen anyway. So, and you've got Joash Papali who looks like he will probably be the 5/8 next year for Parramatta. So there's no real space for Dylan Brown in this side. It is unfortunate for a lot of fans because they do like Dylan Brown and they want to see Dylan Brown play for Parramatta, as he is, of course, off to Newcastle next year. Look, I'll go the early crow. I do think he'll play the last game against Newcastle, to be honest, at Combank Stadium. I think he will play. I think there will be room for him somewhere in this side, but that is just what's happening at the moment. The Raiders, they are, as I said, they are on fire. I think they've won eight straight games or something. Definitely their last 5 in a row. Parramatta won out of their last 5, 36-20 over the Titans. Canberra have scored a lot more points than Parramatta, 165 more in fact. The Raiders 462, Parramatta 297. Parramatta's defence is about 68 points worse than the Raiders. The Raiders conceded 354 points, Parramatta 422. Completion rate 81% for Canberra, 78% for Parramatta. And they do have a quicker play of the ball as well. So that will be a key for Parramatta to try and slow down that play of the ball of Canberra, because you will have the likes of Owen Paddy when he comes off the bench, and also Tom Starling as well, just around that ruck, in the middle of the ruck. If Canberra get a quick play of the ball, then he will look to make some yards and create a break and create a play for the other players in the Canberra side. Also, KO Weeks as well, and the fullback, if he gets into the dummy half and if it's a quick play of the ball as well, look out. He could break the line and score another long-range try. So, looking at this side from Canberra, as I said, players to look out for is KO Weeks, definitely. He is in form. Look, I think it's going to be a good battle between Josh Papali'i and Junior Paulo as well. Two big prop forwards. Josh will obviously be on a high after winning the Origin Series with Queensland on his return game. So he will be on a high. Hudson Young, he'll be on a low, I guess. We're playing for New South Wales. Zach Hosking, he'll be on a high after re-signing as well. So, look, it'll be a good forward battle, I think. If we go to the bench, well, look, I think it's probably each the same on the bench there for each sides. Young halves in Ethan Strange and Joash Papali. Jamal Fogarty is probably the most experienced half there. Has played more games, obviously, than Dean Hawkins, but Dean Hawkins will have to get his kicking game right. He's been pretty consistent the last few weeks for Parramatta, has been one of the better players. And look, that's what he was brought to the club for, is when Mitchell Moses wasn't playing, to step into that position and be that halfback. And look, all he just needs to do is do his job, and he will be right. Look, I certainly hope that the plan will not be just to put up the bomb for Zach Lomax to catch all the time, because look, a few times we know he is an attacking weapon. He is great in the air, just not every time. Okay, kick the ball on the ground if you get the opportunity, because you can't just keep on putting it up for Zach to try and knock it back or catch it and score tries. It may happen here and there, but not all the time. Isaiah Iongi, I'm really happy with his form this year. A lot of people were upset that Gutho left the club, and Isaiah, a rookie, has come in. But I think they are slowly changing their minds, because I think he is one of the form players at this Parramatta side. And look, I do think he leads the Paracave Podcast Player of the Year as well. So he's just getting better and better each and every week. Look, he can make a mistake here and there, but look, I don't mind that as a fan, because look, he's going to get it right, and look, he is going to get it wrong, but he's going to learn from getting it wrong and get it right. So I really like that he is trying things as well. Is it the perfect solution? Probably not all the time, but as I said, I like him to try it and see if it comes off, because you just don't know. Is this going to be a victory for Parramatta? Well, look, they will want to be trying to avoid the wooden spoon, and at the moment the Titans sit in last place. They take on the Tigers this week. They are on 14 points. The Rabbitohs, they take on the Panthers. They are on 16 points. And Parramatta on 16, the Tigers and Knights. Now, look, also to the Cowboys. They are on 17 points. They take on the Dolphins. So, look, there is Cowboys, Knights, Tigers in range there. Big game for Parramatta, 15th position. Can they get the victory over the high-flying Raiders? The Raiders are up on top, 32 points. They've won 14 games this year. They've only had 2 byes. They've only lost 3 games this year, so they are the favourites in this game. Big game. If Parramatta can get the win and a few other results go their way, then they can quite easily jump up a few positions. Now, as I said before, the players haven't given up on not playing finals, but look, every loss from here on in is going to be harder to get into those finals. The Roosters are on 22 points. The Sharks are on 22 points. They play each other this weekend. The Dolphins play the Cowboys. If they win, they'll go to 22. So Parramatta need this win to stay in contention. If not, then it's going to be very hard to try and make these finals. So it more than likely will be a looking towards the future and playing players in positions that Jason Riles thinks will do the job next season. Look, in terms of a prediction or two, I did say on the Talking Para podcast on Tuesday night that I do believe Parramatta can win. Look, it's going to be bloody tough down there to get the victory, but look, I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a 1-12 game. I can't remember exactly what I said on Tuesday night during the live show, but I think I said something like 22-20. Might have been something like that. I'll just have to wait and see. I'm just looking it up now. But here we go. 20-18. There you go. I said 20-18. Parramatta victory. I said Isaiah Iongi, the first try scorer. And look, I've gone a little bit of a bold prediction here, and look, I don't know if it'll come off or not because I know he has tried it in the past, a few little kicks from dummy half, but I've said Riley Smith two 40-20s. So that will be interesting to see if that happens. So I don't really get those bold predictions because, I don't really know what to pick. I mean, it's hard to pick a bold prediction, I think, but there you go. I've given you Isaiah Iongi as my first try scorer, 20 points to 18. Look, I really hope Parramatta can win because I just want them to get back off this bottom of the ladder. Well, not quite on the bottom of the ladder, but down near the bottom of the ladder. And it'll just give the boys confidence going into another big game next week against the Broncos up there in Brisbane. And look, thank you to all those Parramatta fans going down there as well to support their team and my team as well. It is a mighty effort. As I said, it's going to be cold, so rug up and enjoy 3 games of rugby league, the NRLW, the NRL and the New South Wales Cup as well. So good luck getting down there, and look, as I said, it's going to be cold, so rug up. Look, I just go quickly to the NRLW, and the Eels, as I said, they had a loss last week against the Warriors over there in New Zealand, 14-0. The Raiders, they haven't won this year at the moment, so they'll be hoping to get a win in front of their home fans. They didn't get one last week or the week before, so look, maybe this could be third time lucky, but they'll be desperate to get a win to get off that bottom of the ladder. I think they're down the bottom anyway. Yeah, they are on the bottom of the ladder, so they are winless, so they will want to get a win. The Tigers and Titans are winless as well. Parramatta, they were 5th after the first round after their first up win, and then now they have dropped to 9th, so they will want to get a win this weekend, obviously, to sort of get back up there. The same team for Parramatta, which is always good to have that same sort of cohesion and consistency in the team, because you get to understand each other a little bit better. Samaima Taufa playing against their old club, and we all know how players like to play against their old clubs, so champion player Samaima, one of my favourites when she was at Parramatta and also New South Wales now. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Chloe Jackson can go as well. As I said, a bit of a workhorse, just number 11 for Parramatta. What do you expect? It's like Nathan Hindmarsh of the old days. She tackles, and runs. So I really like her as a player as well. Rory Owen, we all know what she can do. 2nd year of rugby league, unbelievable. She will be one to watch. And Abby Church at the fullback position as well. Her form in the State of Origin was not too bad, and also a player to watch as well for the Eels this weekend. So if you can get down there early enough, watch some NRLW. I think Parramatta can get the win down there. I think it'll be close though. But as I said, the Raiders, they'll be hungry for a victory. So it's going to be a tough job. Hopefully we can see a lot of tries. Hopefully we can see a lot more try celebrations. Thank you very much for listening to this game day preview. I never know what to call this one. Maybe just call it a game preview, eh? But anyway, thank you very much for listening to this. You can catch this one on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Please give me a follow on Apple or Spotify as well. If you do that, when a podcast drops, you will not miss a thing. Also, follow me on Instagram and Facebook as well. I'd really appreciate that one. And share it with your family and friends. Enjoy your football over the weekend. May the best team win, and may that be the Parramatta Eels. The Para Cave podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para!
Dylan, how you going,
Russ.
mate? Are you a Para Cave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a
Okay.
great podcast. Everyone tune in. Bro.
Go Para.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next time.